And good afternoon, everybody. Hi, I'm Walter, and I'm the Dutch mentor. And welcome to our Lunch and Learn series. We're going to be hosting them at least twice per month on Thursdays at 12:30. This is an opportunity for all of us to continue to learn and expand our leadership capabilities, stay fresh, and of course, the goal is to pay this forward to your team members. Sometimes it is you as the team leader who needs to continue to learn, and sometimes it's an opportunity for you to take this information and bring it forth to your daily huddles or into a meeting. Or, of course, you can always invite me to come speak to you in a virtual basis or in person. You can find me at info@thedutchmentor.com. And I look forward to a great lunch learn around one of the most important topics that we can discuss today, the four responsibilities of a leader. And they're not as obvious. And I've worked with many clients over the last few years. And it always starts with raising self awareness and really understanding the gap between where we are, where we think we are, versus how we are perceived. And too often we find that the gap is rather large. And this is not to the fault of the leader, right? After all, you are who you saw around you, right? You're modeling your behavior after the five people that you have been led by over the last decade, let's say. So it's good to understand and an opportunity to continue to learn and to adopt new habits and behaviors. So from today's talk, it is really about what can I take away and what can I put into play. And I promise you that I'm going to give you multiple strategies that you can actually start enacting on this afternoon and learning how to measure that on a daily basis in order to develop those sustainable long-term habits and behaviors of highly effective leaders. So if you're ready to go on the journey, I am. So let's get started. So the outcome is really the responsibility of the leader, right? Is the law of harvest clearly states that you reap what you sow. You get out of it what you put into it. If you are a yeller and screamer, you're going to develop yellers and screamers or people who are going to be introverted or reluctant to play with you, right? It is about learning how to get buy-in. So it's the responsibilities to reap the tremendous outcomes of a trusted, dependable reputation. It is about building this brand that people want to follow. Right? That is the ultimate responsibility of the leaders, to inspire and to motivate. And there are four keys to that success. We're going to dive right into it by really understanding first, in order to be able to build a high performance team, there are two elements of performance. There's trust, which is truly non negotiable, and there is engagement. But at the end of the day, what it is that we want to do, both for yourself and for the team members, is to create a team where people are fully committed and self-directed. Right? You want to have strategic partnership with all of the key stakeholders, really learning how to understand what type of a relationship you have today, what kind of a partnership you have to build for the future. Number three is about bottom line differentiating results. Right? As a leader, you just don't want to come to the table with the same outcomes over and over and over. Right? If you want to become a standout leader, it requires to have differentiating results. Well, if you learn today on how to take care of your team, how to build that vision, how to inspire and motivate and work with great focus, you too can deliver differentiating results. And it all depends on how you're going to set up a winning environment. Now, of course, a winning environment should be full of love, and I will define what love means, and tough love, meaning there needs to be accountability to self and accountability to your team. Right? At the end of the day, our bosses, those who we work for, those who sign our checks, want to see results. And if it is your intention to continue to climb that proverbial career ladder, you need to have these four components in play. Right? You need to build genuine partnerships. You need to be fully committed, and you allow empowerment of your team to go out and actually do the work with minimal direction, but with accountability. And through that process, you too get to deliver differentiating results. But let's go dive a little deeper. Right? Let's peel back that onion. What is it? How can I best position myself as a leader to effectively build trust and engagement? Right? Those are the two variables that if you work them correctly, right? If you lead your team correctly, they will multiply, right? They will quadruple. They will be exponential, so to speak. So what we're going to be looking into today is the 4 attributes, and that is really the values that you want to live by as a highly effective leader. Love those you lead. Lead through context, not control. Ensuring that winning environment and the use of power of focus. Now, funny thing is that I can sit here and talk to you about this, and I can explain to you the details behind it and how you can do this on a day-to-day basis. But sadly, very few of you will actually take the actions necessary and measure your performance against those actions to build these new habits and behaviors. So right up front, I tell you that make sure that not only you carefully listen and maybe listen back a few more times, but pick 1 or 2 things from each one of the 4 attributes I'm going to be talking about and put them into play and learn to measure your results. And again, at the end of this session, you have an opportunity to download my latest book called Happy Leadership, where again, I dive into it much deeper in greater detail, give you guidance on how to do these things over 120 days with clear examples of actions you can take, including a scorecard on how you can measure your personal performance on a day-to-day basis. Again, you can expect performance of your team if you're not willing to hold yourself accountable to a high standard. All right, let's dive in. Love those you lead. Right, there are 4 different types of love: eros, storge, agape, and phileo. Well, listen, the first 3, although genuine and they belong in society, is the phileo type of love, like brotherly love, sisterly love, Philadelphia, if it is easy to remember, that we need to put to play at work. Too often we see that people are still leading with tough love, or holding people accountable but not holding themselves accountable, or building relationships but not through partnerships. Filial type of love requires you to really get to understand the person. So here are 5 things you can do on a day-to-day basis, actions you can take, and you can measure your own performance against that. Again, you do not need to do all of them at the same time, but I strongly suggest you to pick up at least 1 or 2 of these. So 1, know them. Get to know them on a genuine level. That does not mean you need to go to their bar mitzvahs and their weddings or to their barbecues, but you need to know something very specific about them. Resolve issues to build relationships. Don't ask questions on how things are going if you have no willingness to take actions in order to resolve the problems. We see this in healthcare and across industries. An annual performance evaluation or patient satisfaction or employee satisfaction. We get the results. We might take an action plan, submit it, review it, commit to it, and then nothing happens until we ask the same question again 12 months later. Don't be that leader. If you go out to genuinely know them and listen to them, and they're telling you something, then either take an action on that if it is something that is common, right? There's a trend, more than one person has told you the same thing, and then communicate that back, right? Keep them in the loop. Think from an other's perspective. Walk a mile in their shoes. There's nothing more powerful than a leader going out and being in role. So one of my suggestions to my mentees is when you go into a new role, there are 3 steps to it. Right? First, get to know the people. 2, experience the work that your people are doing on a day-to-day basis. And number 3, identify some critical issues that you can solve around to create a quick win, a good way to build trust. Now, there's a lot more detail to that, but it's a good way to get started. 4, intrinsic recognition. You know, Sir Richard Branson, who I certainly admire as a business leader from Virgin Atlantic, has this big billboard. I treat everybody the way I want to be treated. But I have news for you. I don't want to be treated the way he wants to be treated. I'm me. I'm not Sir Richard Branson. The saying really should be, I will treat you the way you want to be treated. So if you go out and get to genuinely know the people that you lead, also ask them how they would like to be recognized, rewarded, and appreciated or developed. Again, those 4 things are the most important engagement feedback that we continue to receive from our team members. And it's not money, it's these four first. Learn how to connect with your team members. And then tough love. Giving tough feedback, not from a demeaning standpoint, but from a learning standpoint. It is critical to your success. I highly recommend you to read a book called Candid Feedback. It's a really good way of learning how to do this in a tactful way that is deeply meaningful and impactful to the people, and lots of growth comes out of that. Number 2, it is about lead to context, not control. Or sometimes we say lead, to buy-in and not control. At the end of the day, if we can get people to understand what it is that we are asking of them, and they truly understand the why and the purpose behind it, they're far more likely to follow. It's no different than a horse. If you walk up to a horse and you pull on its harness, they will not move. But if you get to know the horse, and the horse gets to know you, and they feel a sense of confidence coming from you, all you have to do is lead it, and it will follow. Our team members are not much different. And that's where trust becomes so very important, right? That one non-negotiable. If there is no trust between you or the leaders above you with the team members below you, the likelihood that they will go out and do their very best every day is not very good, right? So it starts by having a shared vision, strategy, goals, and expectations with crystal clarity. It's the minimum that we owe to the people that we lead. There should be no ambiguity. There should be no room for interpretation. What does he or she really mean with that? Right? It should be well known to the person, to what is expected of them, and answer their questions until clarity has been established. Explain the why, and not only around your shared vision and strategy and the outcomes that you desire, but around every question, request that you have. Take the time to explain it in the language that they understand, and adjust that language if you speak to somebody of a higher intellect to somebody who has a more basic understanding, or there might be a language barrier. You will do yourself a great favor by speaking the language that they understand, and to make sure that they have understood by asking them to repeat it to you. Clarify and align. Just because you told them something does not mean that they understood it. Ask, tell, ask is a great technique. We use it in medicine all of the time. Right? Ask them what I just explained to them. If they tell you something completely different, it's a good opportunity to realign and clarify. Then ask them again, what is it that you understand? It is through this process, on every single process, or every single thing that we ask them to do for us, if there's clarity, there's purpose, there's buy-in, they will execute much quicker. Hold yourself accountable to that. Number 3, ensuring a winning environment. It is the greatest responsibility of a leader to build a culture of winning, a culture of success, a culture of performance, a culture where people feel good about coming to work. I have a great talk by Lou Shapiro, immediate past president of Hospital Special Surgery. I just posted on my website on thedutchmentor.com. Go check that out. He has a conversation about his journey long before he came to HSS. And then, of course, his 17, 18 years that he spent there building a culture of high performance. And they certainly had the results. But he has some really keen insights on what it took to build that type of culture. And I always say that culture is just like a balloon. It looks big and beautiful and bright, but it is very vulnerable. By just one misstep, and that whole culture can collapse. So this is something that we need to be continuously aware about. And we need to work on these. And we can't just come back and ask the questions once, or do a performance evaluation once a year, or an engagement study once a year. This is something that we need to work on all of the time. We need to learn to speak the same language all of the time. We need to be on the same page all of the time. We need to do effectiveness check-ins all of the time. Only through that process that everybody gets to speak the same language, find the joy in being in the same organization, working with the patients or with the people or the processes. That's where the true winning a culture comes from. And I'm going to go right back to it. 95% of leaders today truly know and understand that development of people is absolutely key to the success of the organizations, including succession planning. The study in 2021 showed that only 5% of the organizations effectively do this. Ask yourself the question, look to your left or to your right or look above you. Is there a bench? Are you developing people who will be able to take over from you if you have an opportunity to get promoted or maybe go into retirement? Will they be able to carry forth the culture that you have built and improve upon it? Too often, the answer is no. Right? And we can talk a little bit more in the weeks to come around operational rhythm when we talk about having the right people in the right roles, the right capability, the right capacity. These are key ingredients in building a winning environment. Right? We need to ask questions. We need to remove barriers. We need to provide sufficient resources. And the last one is around focus. It is about having the power of focus, right? Where focus is directed into the key element that gives you the greatest results, right? Where focus is directed, energy flows. That's simple as that. But we too often work off a to-do list. And that to-do list does not provide focus. Often is misdirected, and often we don't complete it. 70 to 80% of the things we start are never finished to its fullest, simply for the fact that it requires focus and measurement, and there is none or very little of that, right? The leader provides clear directions around the most important priorities, and then here's the key: it delegates it down to those who are required to perform around it. Right, so we shift the responsibility from the owner to the performer. That's part of our delegation model, and I'll dive into that in one of the lunch and learns because it really deserves a whole 20-minute presentation all on its own. Right, successful performance is directly related to the power of concentration. Concentration. That's not the same as taking on a topic. Concentration means that you need to be able to sit in your office and remove all of the noise. Think about that. When was the last time you sat in the office and the phone rang right in the middle of a thinking session or a P&L review or a strategy session or our pagers? Maybe I'm dating myself over here a little bit. Or somebody knocking on the door or just walking into the place. Make sure that if you have to do some deep thinking, concentration is required. Remove the noise. And a simple strategy to that is, put a placard on the outside of the door, make it red. I'm not available for the next 20 minutes. Only if the building is burning, knock on that door. Call me, page me, or send me a message, text or email, right? Success evolves to have total interest and involvement on the subject itself. Here it is key to make sure that you have the right people in the right roles working on your projects, and you too understand what your supernatural strengths are and where your blind spots are. You are to work on your supernatural strengths and bring in those people who might be able to cover, right, who have strengths in areas of your weakness. It's through that process you can really be sharp and get projects across the finish line succinctly and successfully with sustained outcomes. All right, so today's ask is not to just listen to this. Today's ask is to make this part of your DNA. Make this part of your everyday conversation around your huddle boards. Right? This needs to be part of our everyday living by every single person. That is going to build the culture performance that all of you seek. And this cannot be just a one time. This is something that we need to do all of the time, every day, continuously, or what we call with abundance. We need to love the people that we lead, including a little tough love from time to time. We need to get their buy-in. We need to lead with context and not control. I promise you that with the new Z's and M generation, this will not work. Right? They do not like to be controlled. It is more and more important for us to get their buy-in, listen to what they have to say, their perspectives, before we try to implement the new program. Building that winning environment and using that power of focus, that concentration. What is that one thing? By the way, that's going to be our conversation this week on our open coaching call. If you're interested in, send me a quick DM and I'll send the link to you. Again, why do I repeat myself? And I would repeat myself in our coaching sessions at least 10 more times, because this is part of your DNA. This is the secret ingredient on how you can get this across the finish line and become consistently good and effective as a leader. So how can you take action? Well, if you have questions, book a 15-minute appointment on your own calendar to be able to act upon those you lead. So if I said go on the gamma on a daily basis, well, don't leave it up to chance. Book a calendar appointment for yourself at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning and go on that gamma for 15 minutes. Right? Number 2 is assess your leadership on a daily basis. How effectively did I lead through context today? Right? If you use a calendar, digital or paper, doesn't really make a difference. The next day, in the morning when you come in, look at the previous day and color in, did I take actions? As I said, I would make it green. If I did it so, make it yellow. If I didn't do it, it's red. If you have more yellows and reds, then you know that you're not on the right track. Keep it very simple, because otherwise we won't do it, right? We don't make it overcomplicated. Number 3, again, go on that Gamba walk, right? Lead with open-ended questions and really try to seek to understand and see how you can help your team members, how you can help them thrive in their roles, right? Understand their intrinsic values. And then start each day by creating a priority list. Right? Not everything is weighted equally. And then use the power of focus to work on the things that matter most first. As some will say, work on those when you are at your best. We're going to have a talk about block timing later on in the program as well. Some people do their best thinking from 10 to 11 in the morning, while others do their best thinking from 2 to 3. Well, your most important projects are to be done during your best times of thinking and performance. Right? You need to know that for yourself. So if you have any follow-up questions, I would strongly suggest go to my website at thedutchmentor.com. Right? We offer programs for emerging leaders, executive leadership, nursing leadership, specifically for physicians and mid-level providers. We have great relationship with our law enforcement. And of course, I can work with teams on an individual basis or on a team basis as well, offsite in a virtual environment. But start with a quick strategy call. If you listen to this and you have additional questions, go to the website and book a free consultation call. I'll be happy to chat with anybody for 30 minutes and talk a little bit more about your role and your desires and your outcomes and how you can learn to incorporate these habits and behaviors, the scorecards, in order to get the outcomes that you seek for yourself or for your organization. So here's a QR code you can scan to book an appointment. Again, you can go to my website. But more importantly here, this is a freebie. If you scan this QR code, you can download a free copy of my book called Happy Leadership. And happy leadership is not about coming to work with a big smile on your face only. No, there's some hardcore 5 attributes it takes in order to become that highly effective leader that your team needs to thrive. Or really, those desired outcomes, the desired behaviors that you wish that your boss possesses. But at the end of the day, it's about leading for cause. It's about you taking ownership and responsibility for your actions and how you can go to a change model. Again, we cannot blame the people for who they are today, because often they just mimic the last 5 people that they have worked with or for. And trust me, there are the vast majority of the people that I work with and I've spoken to, both themselves and their bosses, really should go to an adjustment period. If you want to get truly the best out of the team members, these attributes I talked about today, or I will share at free, no cost to you, including an action items you can take over a 120-day period, will deliver real results. So use the promo code 4 to download my free book. And I hope that all of you will come back and visit me. Have any questions that, in the back end of this program? Obviously, it's going to be posted on multiple platforms. If you have any questions, just post them. I'll respond back to you as soon as possible. If you want to reach out to me individually, go to info@thedutchmentor.com. and we can connect. I hope all of you can take something away from this presentation today that is tangible. Because on the end of the day, that's my goal. My goal is not to give you information that 90% of it is forgotten by the end of the day. The other 10% is likely forgotten by Monday morning. Because that would be a waste of our time. Leadership development is about continuous development. But it's about taking tangible actions and measure your actions to establish new habits and behaviors. If you want new outcomes, you have to take new actions. Those actions need to be measured, they need to be sustained, and they will be driving your outcomes. And of course, it always starts with your people. All right, I wish you much success in your pursuit of your 4 Ps, working with great passion, purpose, in an organization you love, and the processes that will deliver the results that you desire. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon again. Take care and happy holiday weekend coming up.